नमो नमः प्रियमित्राणि, अहम् आशां करोमि यत् संस्कृतभाषायाः अभ्यासः चलति and भाषायाः बोधः इतोपि जातः अस्ति भवतां. So I sincerely hope that you've been able to practice a little bit, but more than that, that you're being able to understand the underlying structures of this language and the logic of this language. So as I've been talking of this to my students and in various contexts, that Sanskritam is not just a language of, it's not just a language for communication. This is a fantastic language that can actually help to shape our consciousness itself, because it can help build the faculties of clarity of thought, of precision in expression, of articulation of the world around us in a manner that you understand the relationship of things. So it helps us achieve many, many more things than just an expression of a certain thought or an idea. Astu. So now let's, having had this background of what we have, of the language that we've looked at in the first two lectures, this lecture I will introduce you to a lot more practice, but even in this one I will just be introducing you to the way in which I will be presenting this practice before you in the coming lectures. So this is the lecture 3 of module 1, which is on the revision of nouns, the subantas and the verbs tingantaha, and the lecture 3 is on the revision of the masculine nouns pullinga subanta and some verbs tingantaha in some cases only. The concepts that will be covered here are a revision of the masculine noun forms, the pullinga subantaha, with different endings in the nominative or the karta and the accusative or the karma cases, the vibhakti in all numbers or the vachanani, and the verb forms or the tingantaha for the atmanepadi as well as the parasmaipadi verbs in the present and the future tenses. And there will be a focus on trying to build your vocabulary, and at the end we'll have a few verses from Gita's first chapter and then with a quote on by Sri Aurobindo on the Vedas. So let's look at this revision of the forms of the Pullinga Shabdaha. So atra, as you can see, I'd like to present you with this table and to understand how to optimize on using it. All right. So here you've got the questions, and the questions also, as we have seen, the kahas take on all the vibhakti forms. In the second column, you have the sarvanama padas or the pronouns, which are in the third person, the second person and the first person. So the prathama purusha, the madhyama purusha and the uttama purusha. Why are they important? Because they correspond directly to the verb column at the end. And here in the middle you have the visheshyas or the different nouns, and the nouns that I have presented before you have all the different endings. You remember, you have to think of the gender. Here the gender is pullinga, the different endings, and those endings will modify the word form. So here you have quite a lot of practice on that ground. And then you have the dhatus in the atmanepadi, and this time what I'm trying to do is to give you the root form as you find them in the technical text. So you have vrit, so vartum, vartane, bhuadi. So you have the root form of the word, the dhatu, punah tatra artham, vartane in being, and which is a gana, it's in the bhuadi gana. We look at it in the vartamana, the lat, and the bhavishyakala, the rit in this particular table. So, and the atmanepadi as well as in the parasmaipadi forms. All right. In the parasmaipadi we have the vad, vadam, vyaktayam, vachi from the bhuadi ganaha. So let's see how to apply this particular table. You have kaha, janakaha, vartate. So janaka is in the pratipadika form and janakaha is in the kartrikarakam, as we see in the in red on top. So the kartrikaraka is janakaha. So kaha, janakaha, vartate. Answer: saha or eshaha janakaha vartate. Next, Kau, kau janakau vartete. Answer, tau janakau vartete. Next, ke janakaha vartante. Answer, te janakaha vartante. And you can do the same with the chhatra and vriksha words. Next one, let's look at the madhyama purusha. So, kaha guruhu vartate. The question has to be in the third person. Answer, tvam guruhu vartase. Next, kau guru vartete. Answer, yuvam guru vartethe. You see, when the person changes, the verb also changes. Last, ke guravaha vartante. Answer, yuyam guravaha vartadhve. So, and the final one with the prathama purusha. So, kaha kavihi vartate. Aham kavihi varte. Next, kau kavi vartete. Answer, avam kavi vartavahe. Next, ke kavayaha vartante. The question. Answer, vayam kavayaha vartamahe. Astu. And all these forms can also be applied for the bhavishyakala as well. So, vartishyate. Vartate becomes vartishyate and the rest of them are the same. Now, let's move on to the parasmaipadi and see what happens. So, it does the same thing. So, I'll just stick to the forms here also. So, kaha patihi vadati. Saha or eshaha patihi vadati. Kau pati vadataha. So, tau pati vadataha. Next, ke patayaha vadanti. Te patayaha vadanti. Let's move on with the next word. So, you have kaha jnani vadati. Answer, tvam jnani vadasi. Kau jnani nau vadataha. Yuvam jnani nau vadathaha. Ke jnani naha vadanti. And the answer is yuyam jnani naha vadatha. Moving on, kaha data vadati. Answer, aham data vadami. Kau datarau vadattaha. Avam datarau vadavaha. Ke dataraha vadanti. Vayam dataraha vadamaha. Astu. And the same vadishyati and the same as we did for the atmanepadi. Now, I just like to get back to the words themselves and give you some practice on the words. So, janakaha becomes janakau janakaha. Janakaha janakau janakaha. Chhatraha chhatrau chhatraha. Vrikshaha vrikshaha. Uttamam. Guruhu guru guravaha. Shambhu sunu. Uttamam. Kavi kavihi kavi kavayaha. Uttamam. Ravi ravihi ravayaha. Uttamam. Hari harihi hari harayaha. Uttamam. Jnanin becomes jnani. Before that, pati. So, patihi pati patayaha. And you will understand why I have given it as a separate case here. It looks like an ikaranta, but it is not identical to kavi. And this is where the complexity really happens as well. So, jnanin becomes jnani, jnani now, jnani naha. Yogi, yogi now, and yogi, yogi now, yogi naha. Gunin, uttamam. Bhavat becomes bhavan, bhavan, bhavantau, bhavantaha. Gatavan, uttamam. Kritavat becomes kritavan, kritavantau, kritavantaha. And bhagavat, bhagavan, bhagavantau, bhagavantaha. Uttamam. Now, attention again. Because atra marut shabdena kim bhavati, bhavat marut samanam pratipadikam asti, kintu rupa bhedaha tatra santi. Tarhi marut kim bhavati, marutau, maruntau na bhav, maruntau na bhavati. Marutau, marutaha. Mahi bhrit, bhritau, bhritaha. Uttamam. Brihat, uttamam. Now, datru, data, datarau, dataraha. Kartra, kartarau, kartaraha. Gantra, gantarau, gantaraha. Uttamam. But or parantu, pitra looks like datra kintu samanam nasti. Karanam, Pita becomes Pittarau. Data, Datarau, Atra Pittarau, Pittarah. Bhrata, Bhratru, Bhratarau. Also Bhrata, Bhratarau, Bhratarah. And Jamatra, Jamatarau, Jamataraha. So I would suggest that when you are saying it aloud, yada abhyasam kurvanti, tada tatra kinchid emphasize kritva vadantu. Tari datarau atra pittarau. Dvitrivaram kurvanti chet tatra audio madhye api storage bhavati. Yat bhedaha tatra asti iti. So there will be a indication ki tatra bhedaha, there's a difference, and that you need to not just do it mechanically because they look alike in the Pratipadika Rupam. Astu. So we've done that. Just a last quick one sentence for you to attempt. Those two yogis speak. Repeat. Those two yogis speak. So those two. So it will have to be tau, two of them. So where is it? Yogin. So yoginau speak vadataha. Uttamam. Let's move on. Now, let's look at the second case. There's a slight difference here, and that's why we are also looking at this table so that you understand how to apply or use the table for the lessons that are to come. Atra, you see the karta will coordinate with the dhatu, right? So, karta and the dhatu. As we have seen in the middle, now the rest of them have got changing relationships and they do not affect the verb directly. So, atra kutra. So, saha kutra vrajate, and vraj is a atmanepadi, vraj from vrajung, vrajam, gatau bhuadi. Alright, so kim bhavati atra? Saha kutra vrajate, saha tam vidyalayam, ipsitatamam karma vrajate. Next, tau kutra vrajete. Where are they going? Now the object is becoming two. Alright, in this case the subject has also become two, but you can keep the subject as a singular and the object as two things. Alright, but in this case I have also changed the subject into two. So tau kutra vrajete, tau, now two schools. So tau vidyalayau vrajete. And finally, te, many of them. Kutra vrajante, and now we also want to make them into many schools. So, te tan vidyalayan vrajante. Astu, spashtam. But what you can also do here is you have saha kutra vrajate, singular, subject is singular. Saha, object is singular. Tam vidyalayam vrajate. Next question. Same question actually. Saha kutra vrajate. Now the object will become two. Question is singular or the subject is singular, but the place they are going to are two. So, saha tau vidyalayau vrajate. Singular answer. Now, one person is going to many schools. Saha kutra vrajate. Saha tan vidyalayan vrajate. Right. So, you see there are multiple permutations and combinations that can arise from the practice of this. I think you can make a minimum of maybe some 200, 300 sentences just out of this table here with all the permutations and combinations that are possible here. Astu. But what we have already looked at how this works. Let's take the Karaka form here or Karaka question form here. So, it is Saha kam janakam pashyati. Answer. So, saha, one person. Okay, so saha kam janakam pashyati. Saha tam janakam pashyati. Next, saha kau janakau pashyati. Same person, but now looking at two people. So, saha tau janakau pashyati. Looking at two fathers. Last, saha kan janakan pashyati. Answer. Saha tan janakan pashyati. And then you can ask the same question using the different subjects that are there. Astu. But you see that again there are multiple combinations possible using the Atmanepadi as well as the Parasmaipadi. And the dhatu pashyati comes from the root drish, which is drishir prekshane, and it's a bhuadi. Astu. So let's do a little practice on the words that are given in the dvitiya vibhakti or the karma karakam. So vidyalayam becomes vidyalayau, vidyalayan, and mama action asti. Let's take pashyami as the form here. So vidyalayam, you can do it like that. So vidyalayam gacchati can be one, or vidyalayam pashyati. So vidyalayau, two of them, pashyati, vidyalayan pashyati. Next, janakaha. Janakam pashyati, janakau pashyati, janakan pashyati, and more practice with vidyalaya and adhyaya or chapters. Okay, so adhyaya will be adhyayam, adhyayau, adhyayan. Uttamam. Guru, gurum, guru, gurun. And this is what I'd like to point out with the vowels. What happens in the masculine is that the vowel is lengthened and a nakara is added. That's how you know that it is a masculine word. Astu. So guru, ukara becomes gurun. In the next one, we see, so for the first one you have, for the previous one you have Vishnu and Sadhu also as words. In the next one you have Kavi. So Kavim, Kavi and Kavin. Uttamam. Tari atra alternative Kapi. Uttamam. Vidhi. Uttamam. Pati, Pati and Patin, still the same. Jnani becomes Jnaninam, Jnaninau, Jnaninaha. Tapasvi, Tapasvinam, Tapasvinau, Tapasvinaha. Because it becomes Tapasvinau or Tapasvinaha, because it becomes Tapasvinam in fact, that's how you can identify that the root form is Tapasvinam or Jnanin, sorry. How do we know that Jnani is not an ikaranta strilinga word? You have to go to the dvitiya vibhakti, which is Jnaninam. The moment you have Jnaninam, you know for sure that the root is Jnanin and not Jnani like Nadi or Devi. Okay, these are small hints for you to identify the root forms of words. Now, so you have Swamin also, which does Swaminam and Swaminau, Swaminaha. Next, it is Bhavantam, Bhavantau, Bhavataha. And this is a little deceptive because your Shashti Ekavachanam is also Bhavataha. So just remember that for the word Bhavat, there is a similarity with the Shashti Ekavachanam and the Dvitiya Bahuvachanam. Okay. So Yavat will do the same thing, and Buddhimat, Buddhimantam, Buddhimantau, Buddhi Mataha. Uttamam. But for Marut, what happens? It becomes, here it is Bhavantam, Atrana Bhavati, it stays Marutam, Marutau, Marutaha. Similarly, Abhijit, Abhijitam, Abhijitau, Abhijitaha. Uttamam. And Bhubrit, Tam, Bhubritau, Bhubritaha. Uttamam. Dataram, Datarau, Datrun. Adhishtatra, Adhishtataram, Tarau, Trun. Uttamam. Vaktru, Vaktaram, Vaktarau, Vaktrun. Uttamam. Kintu, atra kim bhavati pitaram, pitru iti shabdasya, pitaram, pitaram na bhavati, pitaram, pitarau, pitrun. Devr, devaram, devarau, devrun. And nr shabda, nara shabda yoho tatra samyam asti, but nr also looks like a nara thing, but nara is an akaranta shabda there, whereas nr becomes naram, which coincides with the nara, naram also, and then it is narau and nrn, and that one would become naran. So you have to understand that there are similarities, but patterns pashyantu. Patterns, if you can get the patterns, then you have really, you can master this language, at least the applied form. The software of it can be mastered very easily. Astu. And atra vam pashyama pashyati dhatoho bhavishya kale drakshati bhavati. It becomes drakshati. So, let's do a sambhashanam. Namaste Piyusha. Sarvam kushalam kim? Bahu dinanantaram bhavata saha melanam asti.
नमस्ते आर्ये प्रणामः भगवतां कृपया सर्वं कुशलम् अस्ति गतदिने भवती किं पुस्तकं पठति स्म?
अहं गतसोमवासरे रामायणस्य कथां पठामि स्म। कथायां बहवः रोमाञ्चकाः नायकाः आसन्।
तस्मिन् के के विद्यन्ते इति कृपया मां श्रावयतु।
अस्तु, श्रावयामि। सावधानं शृणु।
अहं श्रोतुकामः। जिज्ञासुः च आरम्भं करोतु कृपया।
तत्र राज्ञः दशरथस्य रामादयः 4 गुणिनः रघुवंशीयाः राजपुत्राः आसन्, ये सदैव परस्परं भावयन्तः भ्रातरः वर्तन्ते स्म। तान् विहाय वसिष्ठादयः ब्रह्मज्ञानिनः गुरवः, अन्ये बहवः योगिनः, विभिन्नमहीभृतः, तेषां मन्त्रिणः, रावणादयः राक्षसाः, सुग्रीवादयः कपयः, वन्यपशवः इत्यादयः च आसन्।
आम्, सा सत्यमेव अद्भुतकथा अस्ति। तान् सर्वान् नायकान् भवती स्मरति किम्?
नैव नैव, सर्वान् स्मर्तुं न शक्नोमि। तेषु काञ्चन एव स्मरामि, यथा राजसूनून्, सर्वान् भ्रातॄन्, तेषां मुख्यान् गुरून् च।
भवती सर्वान् योगिनः भूपतीन् स्मरति किम्?
नैव भोः, यतः कथायां बहवः साधकाः भूपतयः च वर्तन्ते। सर्वान् तपस्विनः मुनीन् च स्मर्तुं सहजं नास्ति, किन्तु आशां करोमि यत् पुनः पुनः रामायणस्य पठनेन सर्वेषां विषये अधिकं ज्ञास्यामि, स्मरिष्यामि च। चलतु, आगामि वर्गस्य सिद्धतां कुर्वः।
अवश्यम् आर्ये, चलतु कृपया।
Namaste. So I hope you enjoyed that conversation, and again, it's something that when you repeat, I would request you to pay attention on the endings of the words to identify, if you can see how to identify the root forms. Astu, idanim agre pashyama. So these are 2 wonderful verses of the Gita which help us in this context especially to see the application of what we have just practiced. So you will have तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेयः सर्वान् बन्धून् अवस्थितान् कृपया परयाविष्टो विषीदन्निदमब्रवीत् मातुलाः श्वशुराः पौत्राः श्यालाः सम्बन्धिनस्तथा एतान् न हन्तुमिच्छामि घ्नतोऽपि मधुसूदन. So it says here, let's see if you can identify the words. Astu. So, tan samikshya sakaunteyaha. Dvitiya vibhakti, satyam. So you have tan. Samikshya sakaunteyaha. Sarvan bandhun avasthitan. Uttamam. So, atra ekam gap bhavati. Sarvan bandhun avasthitan. So there is a sandhi tatra. Bandhun avasthitan. Next. Kripaya paraya vishto becomes vishtaha. Vishidan idam abravit. Astu. So vishidan to that person who was crying. So artha-wise, tan samiksha. After seeing all of them, seeing all these kinsmen thus standing arrayed. Sarvan bandhun avasthitan. Seeing them arrayed there. Kripaya paraya vishtaha. Kaunteya, invaded by great pity. Vishidan idam abravit, uttered this in sadness and in dejection. Kimavadat matulaha shvashuraha pautraha shyalaha sambandhinas tatha. Okay. Etan nahantum ichhami gnataha api he madhusudana or gnatopi madhusudana. What is he saying? Who all are standing there? So he says matulaha, mothers, brothers. Shvashuraha, fathers-in-laws, fathers-in-law. Pautraha, grandsons. Shyalaha, brothers-in-law. Sambandhinas tatha, and other kith and kin. Etan, again Dvitiya Vibhakti, Bahuvachanam. Etan na hantum ichhami. Okay, there's a sandhi there. Hantum ichhami. I'll also put it there. This Vishidan idam abravitya. Hantum na ichhami ghnataha api. So the tatra api sandhi asti. Ghnataha api Madhusudana. So these I would not consent to slay, though myself slain, O Madhusudana. And now that we've looked at the karaka forms and how to make a sentence, how to deconstruct a verse into a prose form, we see that you have, like Tan Samikshasa Kaunteya Sarvan Bandhu Navasitan Kripaya Paraya Vishtaha Vishidan Idam Abravit, which is the main verb Abravit. Kaha Abravit? Look for the Prathama Vibhakti. So, Vishidan Idam Kaunteyaha Abravit, etc. I'll not get into the greater details, but I recommend that you practice trying to do this for yourself in this case. Astu. So, good place to apply what we are learning in our class. Finally, so Sri Aurobindo has this fantastic, these fantastic few words to say about the Vedas. In fact, I was extremely impressed, and this particular paragraph was something that inspired me to take up the study of Sanskrit further, and you will see why. So he says about the Vedas, he says, I seek a light that shall be new yet old, the oldest indeed of all lights. I seek a text and a shastra that is not subject to interpolation, modification and replacement, that moth and white ant cannot destroy, that the earth cannot bury nor time mutilate. I seek an asceticism that shall give me purity and deliverance from self and from ignorance, without stultifying God and His universe. I seek a skepticism that shall question everything, but shall have the patience to deny nothing that may possibly be true. I seek a rationalism not proceeding on the untenable supposition that all the centuries of man's history except the 19th were centuries of folly and superstition, but bent on discovering truth instead of limiting enquiry by a new dogmatism, obscurantism and furious intolerance which it chooses to call common sense and enlightenment. I seek a materialism that shall recognize matter and use it without being its slave. I seek an occultism that shall bring out all its processes and proofs into the light of day, without mystery, without jugglery, without the old stupid call to humanity, be blind, O man, and see. In short, I seek not science, not religion, not theosophy, but Veda. The truth about Brahman, not only about his essentiality, but about his manifestation. Not a lamp on the way to the forest, but a light and a guide to joy and action in the world. The truth which is beyond opinion, the knowledge which all thought strives after. Yasmin vijñāte sarvam vijñātam, which literally means knowing which everything is known. So this last part was what struck me as worth pursuing and take up the study of Sanskrit, and it has been a rewarding journey ever since. There is no looking back. My only regret is I wish I had done much more. So with these few words, sharing with you the references for this particular slide. And the good news is that the book Functional Sanskrit, its communicative aspect, has been republished. So please order your copies, because this is a book that's really worth possessing. So बहु धन्यवादः. अत्र अभ्यासस्य बहु अवसरः अस्ति. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to practice. अतः कृपया एकवारं पाठं श्रुत्वा पुनः पुनः तस्य स्वयमेव स्वाध्यायं कुर्वन्तु, अभ्यासं च कुर्वन्तु. पुनः सर्वथा उत्तमं भवति यदि भवन्तः अन्यत् एकं मित्रं प्राप्नुवन्ति येन सह अभ्यासस्य अवसरः भवितुमर्हति. So to close, I would invite you to practice by yourselves. It's only the repetition that is going to create the hard wire of these formations in the brain. Ataha, please do the practice and find a Sanskrit buddy. That's my sincere request. Find a Sanskrit buddy. It can be from the forum of the class, but find somebody that you resonate with and do this practice as often as you can. Then you will get the true joy that this language has to offer. Dhanyavadaha. Punarmilamaha.